I think it was actually a process how I then envisioned this company. I think I didn't just start by thinking of developing and making mobile devices. It was actually started in stages. So initially I started as a technician. So my first job, I used to work in a bank, and I was just a clerk in a bank. So, and I developed the passion for mobile technology when I was there. But how it started, I was just a phone technician. So I think this is when in Zimbabwe there was Econet and Telecel. They first introduced mobile network solution in the country, and it was like the first thing. It was a new thing to have mobile devices in this country. It was the first time that we have ever seen a cell phone, and because of that, there was a crisis. That when these phones broke, no one could fix them. So initially, my first job was to actually fix phones for people. So on a weekend, people would then come to my house with broken phones and everything. I would then fix the phones for them. Then after that, I then developed an interest to actually sell these devices. So I would then actually buy broken phones, then rebuild them together, then resell them. So I did this for some time. For like about a year, I was doing this. And I was selling these devices in Zimbabwe. Then in Zambia, there was then also another opportunity. There was a network which was then launched again in Zambia. Then I actually saw a bigger opportunity to sell them in Zambia, because in Zambia they were using US dollars, and here we're using local currency in Zimbabwe. So after that, I would then buy the phones, the broken phones here, and rebuild them. Then on a Friday after work, I would then jump into a bus, then go to Zambia. Then on a Sunday, I would then come back, arrive on a Monday, then I go to work. So I did this for like 1.5 years. I think the volume started increasing and increasing. Initially, it was 2 cell phones that I started with. Then the volume increased to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Then when I was actually selling like, 50 to 100 phones, that's when I then said, you know what, I literally understand how these phones work. And every part and every component of this phone, I literally understand how this works. What stops us from actually making our own phones? That's when I then started researching on China to say, okay, these phones are made in China. Who makes them and how do they make them? That's when I then started developing an interest to actually make my own devices. And at that time, I think I was around 20 years old when I was doing all this. Then I then started saving money from the phones that I was repairing and selling. Then I then went to China. I didn't know anyone, and I've never been to China before. And I said, you know what, I want to go to China. I want to see how these things work. So I then went to China. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any factory. And I then started to look around, and to make it worse, I couldn't speak Chinese. So it took me a week for me to actually go to the right place. So I actually went to a wrong state altogether. I went to Beijing initially, and I was then told what you want to do is done in a city called Shenzhen, and I didn't even know what Shenzhen was. So I had to then look around and find my ways to Shenzhen. I finally went to Shenzhen, and it took me 2-3 days to figure out who to talk to and who to engage. I then managed to speak to one of the factory that used to manufacture mobile devices, and I said, this is what I want to do. I'm from Africa. I'm from Zimbabwe. And I've been fixing phones for a couple of years now, for 2 years now. And I believe that there is a gap in Zimbabwe and in Africa as a whole. And if we make the right products that speak to the African people, I think there's a huge opportunity that we can actually make money together. And I understand the market. So initially I was young, and they said, how much money do you have? And I told them, and they laughed. And they said, I think you're crazy. And we think you're over ambitious. I think the good thing that you can do is you can go back home. Otherwise, we can't help you. You don't have the money, you don't have the security. There's no guarantee that if you do this, we'll make money. So, if you don't have money up front, we cannot help you. So I then came back to Zimbabwe, and all the money that I have saved, and it was gone in this venture of trying to do this. I was very discouraged about that. Say, you know what? I can't do this. These guys don't want to work with me. But, I continued communicating with them on email and, for a year or so. Then after that, that's when they said, you know what, we're actually now thinking of actually coming into Africa. And we don't know anyone. And we then remembered that you were so passionate about doing business. Can you come back to China? We'll pay for a ticket and everything. Let's come and talk so that we can see how we can get into Africa. So I then went to China again. Then I met these guys and we then talked and said, you know what, I believe that there's an opportunity in Zimbabwe and in Africa as a whole. And, you know, people are so much interested in music. So we need to start thinking around developing mobile devices that they've got a large speaker, because not everyone can afford to buy a cell phone. So you find that in every one house, you'll be probably having one person with a mobile phone. So we need to have a loudspeaker. We need to have, you know, at that time there was no internet. There was nothing. It was just really a mobile device. Phone, text. There was not even MP3, you know, players during that time. So it was something which was actually coming, but it was not like fully fledged. So we then did that. And after doing that, the guys, they said, okay, we'll start with 100 units or 200 units. We will not give you all the units, because if you just go, what will happen? This is the risk that we can take. That's when I then started my first mobile device brand, and it was called G-Tide. G stood for my surname, Gwatidzo. That's when I started the first brand. I said I wanted to be called G-Tide. And they said, we don't care about the name, whatever you call it, as long as it's going to sell. For us, it's not about the brand that matters, it's the sales that matters. So I then came to Zimbabwe, and I then marketed the device. You know, people loved it. And before, in 2-3 months' time, you know, we moved our volumes to like 2,000. You know, in the 6th month, we were almost doing 10,000 units a month. So the business then flourished, and the Chinese were surprised, and they were very excited about that. Then they then visited to come to Zimbabwe. They say, you know what, we've never been to Africa, but we are seeing the kind of business that is happening. I think there's a huge opportunity. So that's when they came to Africa, and then we had a partnership around the company, around G-Tide, and we then opened other branches through the Chinese in about 5 other African countries where we are selling this brand. And, you know, the volumes grew and grew and grew, and we are selling almost 100,000 units a year during that time. But one mistake that I made, you know, I was so much carried away in the excitement of a successful business. And imagine you're 22 years old, and already you are starting to talk about millions of dollars in terms of sales, and in Zimbabwe. So it was big, you know, for me, and I thought, like, you know what, I've achieved, and I'm so excited. So I got carried away. I was marketing the brand and doing all those things, and going to other countries like Kenya, all these, you know, trying to find distributors and dealers to be able to push the product. Then when the brand really took off, you know, one day I remember, because we then found another partner, because the Chinese then said, okay, the brand is now growing, and you now have got the capacity, and you know, it's now time that you also need to invest into the business, because right now we are also just giving you products based on trust, but we can't do that anymore. So you need to find a partner, or you need to raise money so that we are able to partner into this. I then looked for a Zimbabwean partner. One friend of mine that I knew, and he had the money. Then he said, you put in the money plus the money that I had made from the sales that were happening, then we also, you know, raised the money. So we then had a partnership with the Chinese. So he then went and, you know, then finalized all the agreements and everything with the Chinese and everything. So I remember one day coming from South Africa and coming into the office, and my friend and these Chinese were like seated in the boardroom, and I sat in the boardroom, and they said, can you sit there in the boardroom? And I sit, and they say, you know what, we're going to be paying you a salary going forward of $5,000. You're going to be our sales manager here. And I was like, where is this coming from? This is my company. You know, I created this company. This is my company. They said, no, this is not your company. You actually work for us, and you've been working for us all this time. And I was like, you know what, you're kidding me, and you know what you're talking is nonsense, you know. But apparently these guys had done, you know, back If they'd registered trademarks in their names, and they've done all sorts of things. So they basically then said, we own this company, we own this trademark, we own everything. And you're not part of anything that owns this company. So I was then booted out of the company. So, I just then said, I can't work with you guys. You've cheated me, you've taken this business away from me, I created this business. Then I walked away of the business. So after doing that, I then worked with, I then looked for other financial partners that could help me to raise money so that I would start again. Then I met other guys, a microfinance company that then financed me. And these guys were more or less like loan sharks. And as you know that if you go and borrow money from loan sharks, the intention is not for you to pay back. The intention is for them to take whatever you have. So in most cases, loan sharks, they're always like that. So I built another business again. After building this business, 2 or 3 years down the line, the business flourished again. Then, these guys, what would happen now, that's the time that we started having issues in this country, in Zimbabwe, in terms of inflation started going up, and there was a lot of things that were happening in terms of the country, and things started going bad in the country. So because of that, we then were skipping some of the payments and still talking to them and trying to see how best we could actually do that. Because we would bring cell phones, and in a month, you sell them and it will be worth nothing. You can't even buy the same cell phone, or even 10% of that cell phone. You can't even actually bring it back because of the level of inflation that was happening that time. So, the loan sharks, again, they went to the courts and they found there were back doors of actually getting judgments without actually us defending. So they then also got an execution order against us. So and they kept it for about 6 months, I think. And they waited for us to bring stocks. So after we've tried to mobilize resources and cash and everything, then we brought in stocks into the country. I remember that was like our biggest consignment after we were starting to grow, where we brought in stocks, which was worth about $1.3 million. And that time, if you convert that into the Zimbabwean currency, that time it was a lot of money. So the stocks came, and when the stocks came, the following day, apparently I think they were working with someone within our company. The following they came with the deputy sheriff and everything, and they took away that whole stock, everything, the cars, everything, and we were shut down. So the company shut down again. And this was the second time when the company shut down. So so at this time I think I had enough. And I told myself that, I don't think I was called to do business. I don't think this is my thing. And I think I need to focus on something different now. So I then said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I walked out of the business. I tried to do chemicals. I tried to do lecturing. I tried to do all sorts of things, try to help young people in terms of technology, help them to code and all those kind of things. But if you've got a vision that is deep down into you, you can't run away from it. That's one thing that I've learned in business, that if you've got a solid vision, it will always follow you, and you will always want to satisfy that vision that is within you. So every time I looked around and I still see things, I still see foreign brands dominating in the market. I still see solutions that were not addressing people's problems. I still see many people that could still not afford to buy mobile devices. And there was no one was really doing anything about it. It kept on pushing me to say, go back. Then in 2011, that's when I then said, okay, I think I might want to try again and build something. And I think I've learned a lot of things, doing business, and it has not been easy doing business in Zimbabwe and in Africa as a whole. It's difficult to meet honest people, and everyone is just after taking something away from you, not to build you, not to help you. So I learned a lot of things. That's when I then started Astromobile. That's when I said, you know what, I'm going to build a very strong brand. I've learned a lot, and I believe that I still understand this business more than anyone else in this continent. All these guys that took away the business from me, they eventually collapsed, they eventually closed down, or they're struggling. I know the G-Tide guys, they then approached me and say, you know, can you come back? We'll give you back the shares and what, you know what? All those kind of things. I said, you know what, guys, I can't work with you anymore. I can't trust you and I can't work with you. So that's when I then started Astro Mobile. And I said, you know what, I basically got it from, Astro basically means a star. And the brightest star in the sky at any given time, it's called an astro. So that's how I then came up with the name Astro. And I said, you know what, I'm going to build a brand which is going to shine throughout the whole of Africa and the globe. And we're going to show the whole continent that Africa can also develop solutions that can address global challenges. That's when I then started the brand from scratch, again from zero. So I started looking for funding. I started looking for angel investors. I started, you know, convincing people. But in the market, I was already known. That, you know what, I tried twice and it failed. So, you know, when you go to the bank and they kind of know you and they look at you and like, you know, not again. You know, you want us to lose money again? So no one wanted to help me. The financial institution didn't want to help me. No one wanted to help me. But, you know, I kept on looking. I kept on talking to people. That's when I met one guy who kind of believed in what I was doing. And he said, you know what, I think I can invest in your vision. I believe you've got a strong vision. The fact that you keep on falling and coming back again, it actually means that you've got something. And you understand your business and you understand what you want to do. And I'm going to invest in your business mainly because of the vision that you carry. And that is what I'm going to invest in. So, you know, all of a sudden, this guy then just, you know, gave me $1 million. And said, I'm going to give you $1 million. And I want you to start again. I believe that you've got something great, not for Zimbabwe, but for the whole continent that you can do. Then let's see what you can do with that. So that's how I then started Astro Mobile. So I started then growing from there and growing from there and growing from there. And the company was established in Zimbabwe. Then we started expanding into Zambia. We started expanding into, we went to South Africa, went into Malawi, went into Mauritius. We went into all these other countries that we are now in. But it was a long journey to be where we are today.